Can you make tea out of hydrangeas? In this episode, we're going to be tasting Amacha, the so-called sweet tea made from Japanese hydrangea leaves. Will I be able to stomach this extremely sweet tea? Let's find out. Okay, so what we have today is the Amacha, which literally translates to sweet tea in Japanese. And so what this is it's actually made out of fermented hydrangea. So you're probably familiar with the hydrangea plant. It's got those beautiful blue and pink flowers. There is a Japanese species of hydrangea that's used to make this tea, and it's fermented. So I use the term tea loosely. This is actually not a true type of tea because it doesn't come from the tea plant, but I refer to it as herbal tea. You can refer to it as a tisane if you'd like, but it's not coming from the tea plant. So because it doesn't come from the tea plant, it's not going to have caffeine in it. So this is an herbal infusion, herbal caffeine-free infusion that you can enjoy later on in the afternoon, or if you're sensitive to caffeine. Just looking at the leaves here, you can see they're very large, definitely much larger than tea leaves. This almost looks like a strip oolong or something like that. Very tightly rolled and curled in all sorts of different shapes. So really beautiful here. Very nice looking tea. Let's go ahead and brew this up. I'm going to pour in about 5 grams. Just kind of cover the bottom here. I'm using a different teapot today. I don't want to mess up my unglazed clay Kyushu with kind of a non-Camellia sinensis tea, because this tea can have a powerful flavor. I'm going to be using a little bit hotter water, 70 degrees Celsius. I like to keep the leaf to water ratio similar for all the teas that I brew, just so I have kind of a good frame of reference, particularly with the Japanese teas, so I can compare this with other teas that I've had in the past using the same ratio. For this one, just based off past experience, I'm going to try to pour it out really quickly because I've overbrewed this tea before and it's not enjoyable. So I'm really going to kind of do a light brewing here, very light brewing, maybe 15-20 seconds or so, because this tea is basically like an artificial sweetener. So it's like sickly sweet almost if you brew it too hard. So I'm just doing a little bit of a softer brewing here, slightly lower temperature, around what I would use for like a sencha, unshaded sencha, for example, and a very short brewing time. So you can see the color of the liqueur is very light. I'll go ahead and get a smell of the wet leaves here. Interesting. It is actually very similar to like a roasted oolong, like the aroma coming off of wet oolong leaves. There's definitely a little bit more earthiness to it. Yeah. For a second there, in the first sip, for a second you get this kind of oolong, kind of toast sort of flavor that I get in a lot of roasted oolongs. But then the sweetness kicks in and it really dominates. I have to say I'm not a huge fan of this tea. It's just too sweet for me. Yeah, it's like, yeah. I could see liking this if I, added a lot of sweeteners to drinks and stuff, but I really kind of like the pure teas. I do kind of, it's hard to explain that first second, that first half of a second of the sip, it's like, okay, it's going into a good direction. This is kind of like a lightly roasted oolong tea, and then it just dives right into this like kind of clawing sweetness, which is, I have to be honest, is really unpleasant. Yeah, and then the finish is actually just a little bit bitter. So it kind of starts with this really pleasant kind of toasty note, then it dives into a really intense sweetness, and then it kind of finishes off a little bit bitter. Yeah, I'm looking for a tisane or an herbal infusion that I like a lot, so I can drink it in the evening time. Right now I'm drinking a lot of ginger turmeric, just because I love tea so much. I'm looking for something that's caffeine free, but this is not not going to cut it for me. This is just too sweet. Yeah, I could see using this as like a sweetener in another type of drink, but on its own, it's just way too much. So I'm actually going to pour this out. I feel bad doing it, but I just really can't finish this tea. I want to take it for a second steeping, so I'll be right back. Okay, so unfortunately I had to dump out that tea because it was just, I say tea loosely, this is not a tea. This is not something I'm enjoying, but I want to do a little investigation in this infusion because it's pretty rare. I haven't heard much about it or seen much about it. I've just received some in the samples that are sent to me by the farmers. This was one of them that they're interested in showing us, so I thought I'd try it out. And this is something we will not be having on our website. I think I should just stick to the Japanese green teas. I like those a whole lot better. Second steeping, same temperature water, same leaf to water ratio, but I am getting a much darker color. So these colors that you're getting in the liqueur are much more consistent with an oolong tea. If I had to pick one tea that this is most similar to, it would be oolong, just because that first second of the sip, like I mentioned before, is really nice. It's like a really nice roasted oolong, but then it just goes right into this like sickeningly sweet flavor. Yeah, that's even worse. That's really bad. I think if you're looking for like a substitute like stevia or something like that, this would actually work quite well. But it is not a tea for me. It is just, it's so sweet that it's almost bitter. It's like your tongue just kind of like recoils by how sweet it is. Yeah, I'm getting a lot of bitterness now in the aftertaste. So this tea is definitely, or this tisane I should say, is definitely not going to cut it for me. I'll have to look for another type of herbal infusion to drink in the evening time when I can no longer drink tea. But let's go ahead and look at the leaves here. So you're seeing, all in all, it doesn't look that much different to tea leaves. I think you can tell the coloration is off a bit. I'm guessing that's from the fermentation process. So the color's a little bit off. And you can tell like the leaf shape is very different. It doesn't have these kind of typical saw-shaped edges. It is clearly like a hydrangea. Like if you've seen those leaves before, you know kind of what they're shaped like. So yeah, very interesting. Very interesting to try a new type of herbal infusion. But unfortunately, this is just really not going to cut it. This is just too sweet, and I don't mean to offend anybody by saying that I don't like this tea. If you like it, that's great. Keep drinking it. I'm sure it's great for you. But I'm very sensitive to this type of flavor, and this tea was really not for me. So thank you all so much for watching. I'm sorry that this tea tasting did not go super well. But I just wanted to keep it real and let you know when I find a tea that I really do not like. Even though this is actually not a tea, it's an herbal infusion or a tisane. But if you're interested in trying some, I'm sure we could find some for you somewhere online. So just leave a comment below, and we can search for you and hopefully find a reputable supply. Thank you all so much for tuning in. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. And until then, we'll see you next time.